Hi, good evening, fellow Singaporeans. So, welcome to the very first edition of the Hammer Show. So, with this edition of the Hammer Show, what we are planning to do is to bring our policies to the comfort of your living room during these general elections 2025. So, as all of you know, our manifesto has already been released and it's been separated into 5 distinct chapters. So over the course of the next 5 Hammer shows, we are planning to share with you our thoughts on the policy making process, the reason why the Workers' Party came out with some of these policy proposals, and to have a very honest discussion about what it means to each and every one of us, just as it does for you. So today's edition is actually on the first chapter of our manifesto on affordability and cost of living concerns. Now, as all of you know, this is something which is very close to all Singaporeans' hearts, given that we are living in one of the most expensive cities in the world. And that is also the reason why in November 2023, the Workers' Party MPs have actually raised a full motion in Parliament to talk about the cost of living crisis. And that is really what we think it is. A cost of living crisis where affordability concerns are top of mind for every Singaporean. And this is something which we're very concerned about. And this is where we also try our best to play the role of a responsible opposition, to not just bring the voices of our people to Parliament, but to also share constructive feedback and policy proposals to try to alleviate some of these cost of living concerns that people are having. So without further ado, let me introduce our cast for today. First, we have Mr. Andre Loh, Ms. Paris V, Mr. Abdul Muhaimin, and Mr. Kenneth Foo. Now, during our various walkabouts, house visits, I'm sure cost of living is the number one thing that many of our residents share with us. So perhaps you guys would want to share with our viewers, what are some of the experiences or stories that our residents have shared with you?
Yeah, I would say that most of them highlighted about the cost of living, basically public transportation, cost of housing, and also medical costs. These are the ones which they are very concerned about.
Yeah, I think I heard similar things along the way as well, because we conduct a lot of house visits in the places that I go as well. So I think healthcare is one of the things, and some of them even have to resort to incidents like they actually have to travel across the crossway to Malaysia to buy the drugs at a cheaper rate as well. But of course, it takes time and effort as well. So I think that we should do a lot more to actually help the local residents as well to cope with the rising costs of healthcare, especially the seniors or people who could be in the sandwich generation as well. Yeah, I think these are very important measures that can be brought in. Yeah,
and I know of a lot of very young parents that actually will endure the jams at the causeway just to go over there to buy milk powder and diapers just for that cost savings, right?
Yeah. I've actually always wondered this myself, right? How can the cost of time and petrol and everything still net out to still be cheaper than just going downstairs? And I've asked my residents who told me this, and they're like, yeah, we've just maximized one trip. We fill like 2 shopping carts full, and it really does actually make a significant difference.
Because the cost differential is just so big.
It's that great, yeah.
And I also can hear that nowadays many Singaporeans, right, among my friend circle also, they actually travel to JB more now for all these shoppings and all, compared to previously, not much, maybe, one time a week, and maybe 2 friends did that. Now it's like maybe at least like
so many,
5 to 8 are doing it. Yeah.
So not forgetting for those low-wage workers as well, they might not even be able to travel to JB. So they are living daily, day-to-day. Their expenses are basically day-to-day, and just to meet the daily expenses is a very difficult time for them.
I think I can attest to that, because I was just having a conversation with one of our volunteers yesterday. Then he said that almost every 2 weeks he will travel to JB to top up his groceries and stuff like that. But he came his background is a little bit more middle class family, so he can afford to drive a car in. But imagine that you were from low wage background. Most of the time you are spending is trying to make money, make enough for the family. And when do you actually get the time to travel, and how are you going to bring everything back?
Correct.
You can't. You just have to make do with what you have here and just cope with it.
Yeah, I think this is something which is very real, and we're just talking about essentials, right? Like food and stuff which we actually need for daily living. So it's something which I think like all of us at the Workers' Party have also recognized, and so it's something which I believe that we have also kind of looked at the cost of living issue and kind of trying to think about it to find structural solutions to address a lot of all these issues and problems that we as a country are facing. And I think this is where, across the various manifesto ideas, we have actually come up with constructive, actual, practical proposals that we can actually bring forth to Parliament, and hopefully it gets implemented.
Yeah, I think one of it would be like exemption of GST for essential items, because essential items are actually like physiological needs for all of us as human beings. We need all those, so it should be GST should be exempted for such essential items. Yeah,
But I know that there was counter arguments to that. They were saying, oh, it's very difficult to track. What do you consider essential, non-essential? Is rice an essential or non-essential? So what were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so because the thing is like, they say that, sometimes if they're going to cut GST on essential items, then it's also going to be all across the board, where also the rich people also, will get to enjoy that. So the aim is to, just get the GST amount, everything, from the higher income, and then turn it out to the lower income people. But the thing is like, let's say, like in a household, right, like whether it's low income or middle income or higher income, right, if the house has got like 5 people, right, all the houses have got 5 people, they can only eat that much of rice.
How much rice can you eat?
The richer person can go and buy, like, stock up like 5 kilo bags of rice, and like say that you're gonna eat it like that. Is it? No, everyone is gonna eat the same, so it's okay. I would say that it would be good to exempt GST, because the higher income people are basically spending more on like things like like luxury goods or like fine dining, those kind of things. What they pay for GST in a day is what they probably would pay like like in a month for maybe the essentials. So I think that would be a good thing to just exempt GST. And it would not be so difficult, because if you ask me, what did the government do during COVID-19, right? So COVID-19, what happens is like they managed to say these are the essential items, these are what each family could buy, and all those kind of things. So I think it can happen, and also in this technological era, it's definitely easy. Yeah.
Yeah, and to Kenneth's point about ease of implementation, like over the last 2 GST hikes, many of the large supermarket chains have managed to exempt GST from some of their house brand items. So it's definitely doable, it's definitely possible. At least the large chains will be definitely able to do it.
So I guess the other thing when we talk about, Paris, we talk about physiological needs, right? So, as humans, we all need to eat, we all need to breathe. And I think very importantly, we also need a roof above our heads. And I think that is something which many Singaporeans have shared their concerns with us as well, because, practically everyone needs a place to stay.
Yeah, for sure. And like in all my home visits, while cost of living is obviously the number one concern, housing is a close second. And I was actually surprised by the wide variety of Singaporeans who expressed that concern to me, because I had originally assumed that it would all be younger Singaporeans, those around my age, or those who are slightly younger who may be looking to buy their first home, right? But actually, many of the older Singaporeans, those who have children who are also that age, they're concerned for their future generations, and they share that same kind of dread about the resale price index constantly going up.
Yeah, the resale prices are very interesting, because they've like skyrocketed to like 1 million and above. So that is, it's public housing. So how could it even touch that level? It's really amazing.
In fact, I did a Google search before I came here into Property Guru, just out of curiosity. I found that there are actually 800 over 4-room and 5-room flats that's listed that causes more than $1 million. And the highest being $1.85 million. So that's a worrying trend, I would say. So of course, from a house owner point of view, if I can make a profit out of that, that's wonderful.
Yes.
Yeah, but what is going to happens after that? The whole market is going to be put in the wrong direction, and in the future, who else is going to be able to afford it? Yeah.
Yeah, I think we see that a lot in Sengkang as well, right? Even though it's supposed to be a young town, but a lot of people are very concerned.
So basically, when I was doing my house visit, it basically the same thing. They are highlighting that cost of living is an issue, and most part of it is due to the rising price of HDB flats or public housing in a sense. So what are our proposal? What are we doing? How are we going to address this issue?
Yeah, look, obviously housing is not an easy puzzle to crack, but we at the Workers' Party believe that we have come up with some very concrete, workable proposals, right? The first among which is that we would propose that the house to income ratio,
The house price income.
house price income ratio be reduced, right? Right now, the prevailing number is around 4 to 5 times of median household income. And we are suggesting that we should take certain measures to bring it down to around 3x, right? Three times the median household income. I think that would make it, that is a realistic target for many more Singaporeans so that they do not feel like owning a home is something that is completely out of reach. And I think that will make housing much more accessible.
But I think it's better to look at the new owners' median income instead of just the median household income, where it captures other wages,
Yes.
like on the higher end of Singaporeans.
Exactly.
Yeah.
After all, the people who really do need housing, there's a pressing need for it, right? They want to start a family, are the younger Singaporeans. Yeah.
In fact, it came out a lot of times, maybe in the press or social media. So I watched a video over social media. There was this Gen Z ranting and saying that, hey, actually, I find that this is ridiculous because the same exactly formula that you're talking about, how the income, HPI itself, it has risen so much over the years, and he find that it's very suffocating nowadays to even think of buying a house itself. Yeah.
And this ratio is actually key, right? Because sometimes when you just look at the sticker price of the flats, people will say, oh, of course, it's higher now, there's inflation, right? But the HPI ratio has also increased. So in our parents' generation or in our grandparents' generation, that number would have been much smaller.
I think the difference also is that when it comes to our parents' generation, we probably didn't have to take like a 25, 30-year loan as well, right?
Exactly.
Although speaking about our parents' generation, I think at the other side of the coin when it comes to housing is that while we are worried about affordability, the way in which the system is set up kind of makes it an issue, not just when it comes to the new homeowners worried about affordability. On the other hand, we still have a very big problem that we haven't actually addressed, the elephant in the room, and that is the lease decay issue, right, for the older flats.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why we at the Workers' Party, we are proposing that for older flats, we should implement a universal buyback scheme and not just the very limited schemes that HDB currently has in place, right? This serves two purposes, right? It will gradually help to change mindsets about the resale flat pricing, especially older flats, because the HDB is always available as a buyer of last resort, right? And then on the flip side, when the HDB buys back these flats, the older flats, we are increasing the pool of available rental flats potentially, so that, for example, younger homeowners or younger potential homeowners who are caught in a place where, their BTO is still 3 years away, but they've already got a kid or a kid on the way, right? Like myself. Maybe they can have access to a larger rented property rather than just the very limited pool that is available to them now.
I guess the other dimension of it also, we've talked about, affordability in terms of food, affordability in terms of housing. The other thing that we also talk about in our manifesto is that actually it's not just groceries, because sometimes given our busy lives, we also have to eat out a lot, right?
Yes. In fact, I think this is a lifestyle nowadays that we see. You can see that a lot of our colleagues actually in office, they order food from Grab and stuff like that. But the heartlanders will actually go to the nearby coffee shop at the hawker center. These uncles, auntie, maybe retirees, the housewives that buy lunch for their family members have to go eat. And we do hear a lot of times they will say, the food price have raised by so much, nowadays it's becoming unaffordable and stuff like that. I think in our proposal itself, we're also asking the government to relook at this model where they can reacquire the coffee shops that have sold in the past and also do direct management for the hawker centers instead. So this is a way that we can manage the cost better as opposed to what is happening now. Yeah, because when you imagine that we're hearing the coffee shops that have been sold for $30 million, $40 million, so eventually, how are they going to pass this cost and pass it to who? Eventually, it will flow down to the consumer.
To the consumers.
It's a matter of time.
Yes.
If I'm a business owner, I'm going to pass it to someone. I'm not going to absorb it at the end of the day. So before that actually happens, then I think that our proposal is something that let's buy back these coffee shops and then take direct management of it. So at the end of the day, the cost is something that can be managed. Of course, we'll hear arguments to say, oh, cost is only a small percentage. But yes, it's a small percentage, but it's something that's within your control.
Yeah, the rentals, right?
It's within your control. Yeah, I mean, the others maybe they are not within your control, but this is something that's within your control, and then why not? That's the thought.
Now you can see that most shops or even the those that sells food are closing down one after another because of high rental fees. So it's not about the staff or the manpower that they have to cater for. It's about the rental fee that is affecting their daily expenses and the amount of money they need to incur.
Yeah, the most common thing that you always hear is that, hey, this business is doing very well. And the next moment, when they are at the lease renewal, is okay. So your rent is increased by 100%. Imagine you got to pay $5,000. Suddenly you got to pay $10,000. So what's the logic? There's no logic behind it.
Yeah. So I read about like this Japanese restaurant, which had like 9 heartland shops. The Japanese.
Mentaya.
Yeah. So it closed down all its shops. So that was. I mean, it's really saddening, especially when you term it as heartland. Heartland means it should be catering to the affordability of the residents there. So it should be affordable to them. And even though the stall owners actually push it to the consumers, but they can't push it much also because people are not going to buy from them. And also, it's not just the rental. Overhead costs still have to pay, right? Even though people don't come and buy from them, I decide not to go to... They still have to pay the overhead costs. I mean, like all this, you have to pay the worker salary, electricity, utilities, everything still has to be paid. So I think they should just make it affordable and regain it back. So, it's more affordable to call it heartland, and it's really for the residents living there.
Yeah, and I think of course, there's another argument to say that we have budget meals. In the latest announcement, 300 over coffee shops or something like that, they're going to introduce.
There's also like an app like that, like a campaign, like a go
budget
hunt.
Go where?
Hunt for your meal or something like that.
Yeah,
Still must go and hunt.
It's like, okay, they made the ease of it, but why should the residents go and hunt? Why should they be, just getting the budget meals? If they are living there, all shops there, maybe okay lah, out of maybe 10 shops, maybe 1 or 2 is a bit like atas kind, it's okay, you maybe buy expensive item, that's okay, like steak or what. Other than that, everything else should be affordable for all the residents who are living there. So it's not about just, hunt where or like, go where. It's not about that. Then every day what they have to just keep eating like those kind of budget
every day eat the same item because it's a budget meal.
I think for Heartland, it shouldn't be this way lah. Okay, because this type of coffee shops and hawkers are in Heartland and not in like Marina Bay Sands or somewhere else. So yeah.
I think also to draw back for when it was first set up initially is to make sure that the food prices stay affordable for people who are staying in the area, so that people will not face the pressure itself. And I think that when it comes to budget meal, I also have my concern because nowadays a lot of people complain that my portion Q3. Q3 means
shrinkflation.
Shrinkflation. The price never increased, but the portion becomes smaller. It's like the one mouthful of noodles as compared to the past. And then after that, when you go and look at it, maybe the nutrition wise is an issue also, because what are they offering? Is it a lot of carbo items? So then, is it really healthy for people to eat it over the long term as well? And then who absorbs the cost? Yeah, is it the owner has to absorb the cost if let's say that I'm actually providing this budget meal? Yeah, so it could be unfair to them as well.
I think especially also for older people who are having like chronic illnesses like diabetes, for example, right? They will advise to have like good portions of like like protein and this and that. If they're going to just depend on budget meat, then it like sort of defeats the purpose. Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, Kenneth, you were mentioning that who absorbs the cost. There are actually a lot of selfless store owners out there who they're not even forced to do it under some kind of program or anything, but they see it as a civic duty to keep some affordable items on their menu at very, very slim margins for them, or some of them are even making a loss, right? Like I read about a few stallholders who are like that, and they are almost doing a social enterprise of one person, and they are stalwarts of their community. And why should it be down to these individual store owners and their sense of civic responsibility?
That's very true, and we shouldn't actually place a huge burden of the cost of living on the individual store owners themselves. I mean, they are also trying to earn a living. They are also trying to make ends meet.
And many of them are not high income themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess income is something which we also need to address, right? Because if you look at the cost of living, that's on the expenses side. And this is where I think we have also looked at it on the income side to make sure that it's something which is addressed, right?
Apart from the various proposals that was highlighted by my colleagues here, we also would like to implement a national minimum wage of 1,600 for the full-time works and a prorated amount for the part-time workers. So this is basically to improve the wage level for these people and also at the same time improve productivity and welfare for them.
That's a very good point, Min. But at the same time, I'm sure the government will always have a very common kind of comeback and
Yeah.
say that look, we have the progressive wage model, which is better.
So basically the government has the progressive wage model which is covering 9 of 10 industries in Singapore. So quite slow in a sense that the way they are rolling out has been since 2014. So we are missing that last 10% of the low wage workers. So by our implementation of this 1,600, we hope people can benefit and have a living expenses that can so that they can survive for their daily lives. Yeah.
And I mean, this reinforces the point, right? It's only 10% left of the low income population that we need to cover. Why don't we just implement a national minimum wage instead of dragging our feet with the slow rollout of the progressive wage model to more industries? There will always be industries that fall outside of the definition, right? Why don't we make sure that nobody is left behind and just do it across the board?
Yeah, I think in fact there is a very interesting point, which is also if you look at now they have a lowest qualifying salary scheme as well. If you're going to hire foreigners in your firm, then you have to actually pay Singaporeans 1,000.
Yeah, the local qualifying salary.
Yes. So in fact, I think a lot of companies in Singapore are actually hiring foreigners at this point of time. In fact, you can just call it, just give everyone the minimum wage of $1,600. Rather than have something there, then eventually you lead to $1,600. It's still the same outcome. It's just that you just go one round the curve and then come back to the same thing as well.
As you know, the progressive wage model is on the higher side in terms of the salary that they are providing. So for even though our price is at 1,000, our proposal is at 1,600, we can always ensure that the National Wages Council can review them as and when with the help of academia and also industry expert or also those are helping the low income families.
Yeah, so I guess, after our discussion, I hope viewers will be able to see that it's very important for us to have frank, open discussions about the issues that concern us, especially if it's something as important as affordability and the cost of living. And I hope that we'll be able to take this discussion into Parliament as well, so that we will be able to have a constructive debate with the government on the policies that affect us. Now, to round up today's Hammer Show, perhaps each one of you would like to give your own key takeaway from the session? Maybe Andre?
Yeah, I think it's become very clear to Singaporeans and the Workers' Party over the last 2-3 years that the cost of living is spiraling out of control. And we think that we are best placed to bring your concerns about the cost of living to Parliament, because look at the diversity of my colleagues here before you today. We come from all walks of life, all races, all communities and different backgrounds. And we can best represent the concerns of Singaporeans in Parliament about the cost of living.
Paris?
Okay. சிங்கப்பூர் மக்களுக்கு மிகவும் முக்கியமான பிரச்சனையாக விளங்குவது வாழ்க்கை செலவினம். உங்கள் குரல்களாக நாங்கள் நாடாளுமன்றத்தில் இருப்போம். பாட்டாளி கட்சிக்கு வாக்களியுங்கள். சிங்கப்பூருக்காக பணியாற்றுகிறோம்.
Dari sesi ini saya berharap para penonton dapat mengetahui betapa pentingnya suara alternatif di Parlimen kerana tidak ada satu parti yang mempunyai semua jawapan.
Kenneth?
我想说的是，现在的情形其实是一个非常严峻的时刻，因为人民的生活因为通货膨胀的关系，已经陷入了一个所谓的水深火热的情况。我们需要的是一些机制上的改变，而不是说头痛医头、脚痛医脚的给你抵券、购物券来帮忙你，这些只是暂缓而已。如果需要真正的帮助到人民，我们需要一支强而有力的反对党，为人民在国会里面制衡政府，甚至设法想出更多的对策来帮助人民。所以 希望大家可以支持工人党。
Alright, so we've come to the end of today's session of the Hammer Show, and we hope the discussion that we've had today can give you a glimpse about how we try to bring constructive policy ideas into Parliament as we speak up for you in Parliament. We hope that our policies are working for Singapore, and we invite all of you, my fellow Singaporeans, as we join together on this journey to make Singapore a better place for all of us. Till the next episode of The Hammer Show, see you guys!